Ciao y'all. Today we're going to talk about onions. What is there to talk about onions? Not a whole lot, but there's some good information that we can learn about onions. The first thing that I want to do is start off talking about the main kinds of onions that you usually see in the store. So here I have all kinds of onions, but I'm going to start by talking about the big round onions. These are bulbs. Onions are all bulbs, and they grow long green stalks called ramps. So like if you looked at green onions, the same thing, you got the bulb at the bottom and the ramps that grow out, and then of course little roots grow out the bottom of the onion. So first we're going to talk about onion bulbs and what the onion bulbs are and how what the differences are. There are a few different types you'll see. This onion is known as a white onion. Fairly obvious. This onion is known as a red onion, or some people will say purple onion, which is probably more correct as far as the way it looks. Red onion or purple onion. This onion is known as a yellow onion. It's not entirely yellow, it's sort of a brownish yellow color. That's a yellow onion. And this onion is a sweet onion. I know you thought I was going to throw another color at you. This is known as a sweet onion. So what's the difference between these and when are you supposed to use them? Well, here's what you're going to hear people say. You're going to hear people say, if you want to make caramelized onions, you've got to use yellow onions. Yellow onions have a higher sugar content and they're going to caramelize the best. And so if you wanted to make something like French onion soup, or you were making like a caramelized onions for a burger or something like that, the yellow onion is going to be your best onion. You're going to hear that all the time. You're going to hear that the only onion for Mexican food is the white onion. That's what you're going to hear. The white onion is the only onion for Mexican food. And while the white onion is a really great onion for eating raw, it works really well for topping a burger or a taco or putting on salads. The white onion is one of the best onions for eating raw. So is the red onion. And you'll see this a lot of times in salads. Red onions add a beautiful color to the salad. These are also great for pickling, which also white onions are. Because they're great eaten raw, they're also great eaten pickled. We like pickling red onions though because they make that beautiful red juice in the pickling liquid. So pickled red onions, pickled white onions, both of these are great for eating raw. They don't taste the same, but they can be used interchangeably. They're both really great for eating raw. And this is the sweet onion. What is this? This is our Swiss Army knife of onions. This thing can be used for all of those purposes. You can caramelize these, you can eat them raw, you can saute them, you can put them in soups, you can use them for anything. Is it better to eat a raw white onion than a raw sweet onion? Of course it is. Is it better to caramelize yellow onions than sweet onions? Of course it is. But the sweet onion can always step in a pinch. So that's our switch hitter onion. Is the sweet onion. So this is the thing I'm going to go back to. They're going to tell you only white onions for Mexican food. But if you have one of these, can you have it with your Mexican food? Obviously. Only yellow onions for caramelizing. If you have one of these, can you caramelize it? Sure. But wait, am I telling you that the yellow onion is the best onion for everything? Of course not. Here's the thing. I can caramelize that. I can caramelize that. I can caramelize any of these things. I can eat all of them raw. This yellow onion, of all the things I'm going to talk about, is the one you least want to eat raw. The sweet onions are fine raw, white onions, they're all fine raw. That one knocks so much, it's got a strong onion taste to it. But you can, if you don't mind that taste, you can eat it raw. One thing that helps though, if you are going to use these yellow onions to eat raw, is rinse them in, soak them in cold water for a few minutes, and that helps them a little bit. So you can use all of these onions interchangeably. If I knew how to juggle, I would juggle them, and it would be really fun to watch me do that, but I can't. So all these onions are great. I'm a big fan of sweet onions. Speaking of sweet onions, there are different varietals of sweet onions. This one here comes in a bag labeled sweet onion, or it's on the produce bench, just labeled sweet onion, but there are other ones. The Spanish onion is a sweet onion. I live in the South, so I have access to Vidalia onions when they're in season. They're really wonderful onions. And if you live out west, you may have access to Walla Walla onions that come from Washington. Those are really fantastic sweet onions as well. I think there's a Hawaiian type of sweet onion, but I can't remember what it's called. So sweet onions, good all-around onion, but again, all of these can be used interchangeably. So you'll see I have some other onions down here. Here are little tiny onions that match all the same colors as these onions, right? So I have a yellow onion, I have a purple onion, and I have a white onion that are tiny onions. These are known as pearl onions, all of these. And again, can be used interchangeably, but what's great about pearl onions is you just pick these mostly based on the look you want. These are great for things that where you want it decorative. Like if I'm making, say, a stew, I might want the whole onions in the stew. They're going to cook in there nicely, but instead of just being chopped up pieces of onion, they have this beautiful little look of being a whole round onion. If you're thinking, oh my gosh, that must be a nightmare to peel these things, it's really not. You can take the whole bag of them and just dump them into boiling water for a couple of minutes and take them out, and the peels come right off. I'll just cut the ends off, and then the peels just slip right off of them. So it only takes a few minutes to peel them. Super easy. I'm missing an onion from this batch, however. My favorite small onion, the cipollini onion. I went to 3 grocery stores looking for one, and I couldn't get one, so I didn't have them to show you. They're a little bit larger than these. They're a yellow color like this, and they're closer to a sweet onion in taste. Cipollini onions have a lot of wonderful onion flavor, compact into a small size. Like I said, they're bigger than these, but not much. They're a delicious onion alternative as well if you want a small onion. So I don't have cipollinis, unfortunately, but you may want to look for those in your grocer as well. Moving on to another bulb onion is and I keep saying that all the onions are bulbs, but I'm just talking about the ones we eat as bulbs. This is called a shallot. If you haven't seen one of these before, if you watch any of these fine dining YouTube channels, you've probably seen people cook with shallots. They're used a lot in French cuisine. They're a very, very tasty, sort of a cross between onion and garlic. So it has that pungency and sweetness of garlic. I mean, the sweetness of onion and the pungency of garlic, all rolled into one little package. These are really delicious. A bit more expensive than your standard onions, so use these only when that's what you're going for. But these really are a great onion alternative as well, shallots. Now I'm going to talk about green onions. These are, you'll see these labeled either as green onions, spring onions, or scallions. Those are 3 different varietals of onions. I don't know which one this one is. At my grocery store, these were labeled as green onions, but I see these same ones at another grocery store, and they'll be labeled as spring onions or as usually as scallions. If you read a recipe and the recipe says, you know, use this much scallions, you can use green onions. If it says use this much spring onions and you have scallions, use scallions. Again, I'm not going to tell you how to know the difference, but you can probably look that up. Some will have larger bulbs on the bottom, some will have thicker stalks, and some will have thinner stalks. So, but they're all interchangeable. These are great. If you're cooking with these, what you would usually do is you cut up the white part and put that into whatever you're cooking so that it cooks down in there, and then cut up the green part and throw it on top at the end. That way you get that beautiful green color. It's a nice garnish, also adding more of that green, that onion flavor, but you're getting a little more of the grassy taste from the tops. So you're using the tops sort of like you would these things, chives. So that's what these are, chives. Chives are like the teeny tiny cousin of green onions or any kind of onions. This is just, you use just the, and I just wrap this little thing around them to keep them together, that they don't come like that. So chives are a little teeny tiny onion. They have a wonderful, very powerful taste, but not a strong taste. So these are really wonderful taste. You chop these up super teeny tiny. There's actually a website you could check out called Rate My Chives, and there people will chop their chives and see how perfect tiny little chive bits they can get, and then they post pictures online and you get to go rate them. So it's a kind of a fun little website. I might put a link to that in the description. So that's how chives are used. They're really decorative, fun little onions to cook with. The last, before I get to the last thing on my table, I do want to talk about a little something. Right now, I'm not going to go over my cutting board and start showing you how to cut an onion. There are a million videos on the internet on how to cut an onion, and they're all great. In fact, I'll put a couple of links in the description if you want to learn how to cut an onion, if you don't already have that skill. There's some great videos out there, so I'll put a couple of my favorites down there for how to do that. I do want to talk about the hazard of cutting onions, the dreaded cry. So, you know, we all know about cutting onions, you start crying. I will tell you, if you worked in a restaurant for any period of time and you've chopped through cases and cases of yellow onions are the strongest. They have the strongest cry effect. I have cut so many cases of yellow onions, they don't affect me anymore. You can build a tolerance to it. I don't recommend trying it, but you can. What causes you to cry when you cut an onion? I'm going to tell you, this was fun for me. I always heard that there was sulfuric acid in an onion and that was what made you cry. Well, there is not sulfuric acid, there is sulfenic acid in an onion. I don't know what the difference between those two things are. If somebody knows, please tell us in the comments what the difference between sulfuric and sulfenic acid is. But it's not the acid that makes you cry. There's apparently another, I just learned this while I just wanted to make sure that it was true about the sulfuric acid. So I looked up and found out that there was a whole rabbit hole you could go down. There's a chemical there's an enzyme in the onion called alliinase. I had to look up how to pronounce it, alliinase, because it's got two I's in it. Alliinase is an enzyme that when you cut the cell walls of an onion, sulfenic acid comes out and alliinase comes out. They mix together and create a compound that I cannot pronounce that is what actually gets in your eyes and causes you to cry. So fun fact about onions, that's what causes you to cry. Is it's like a chemical reaction between two chemicals that exist in here already, an enzyme and an acid that get together and cause that gas that gets into your eyes, and it can get into, if you have moisture, it can get in your skin. If you cut a lot of onions, it will start to burn your skin a little bit too. So now we know. That was a fun little fact that I picked up while I was just trying to verify what I thought was already correct, and it wasn't quite. It was close, but not quite. So fun little fact about onions. But yeah, if you're particularly sensitive to this, you can wear goggles while you cut your onions. Please don't let yourself feel embarrassed to do that. I like to try to get the heat out of habanero peppers by scraping the insides of them. And when I do that, I wear 2 pairs of gloves and like full-on chemical safety goggles and a respirator, because that will, it's bad. So if you are sensitive to onions like I am to hot peppers, go ahead, mask up, get your protective equipment on, because it can be a serious issue. Back to what we have on the table. This is our final onion to talk about. And I know people are like, that's not an onion, that's a leek. Well, leeks are technically onions. This is an onion. You don't use it the same way you use other onions. Leeks use more like a vegetable. You would cut these up into a soup. In fact, I bought these to make this video, but because I have them, they're going to become a potato leek soup soon, because I love that stuff, and that's what leeks are great for. They're great for soups and other things like that. I'm sure there are a million uses for leeks. That's my favorite one. I also make a nice leek pasta, and I saw online somebody make a French dish that's cheese leeks. I might try that. In fact, that might be what I do instead. So I'm already changing my mind. Leeks, here's my tip for leeks. When you cut your leeks up, you generally don't eat this part of the leek, the chewy green part of the leek. Usually just eat the white to the light green part. These you can save and put them when you're making stocks or something like that, or other broths, so they're good just for using for that sort of thing. And when you use these, this is my tip. You'll see all kinds of tips for how to clean them. My best tip is cut the leek to the size you're going to use it, and then put them in a bowl and wash them in a bowl like that, so that the dirt sinks to the bottom, but you're getting all the dirt. If I cut this in half and try to run it under cold water, I'm still gonna miss some dirt. So I just go ahead and cut the leek up the way I wanna use it, and then I wash the cut leeks. I find that works way, way better. And I'll wash them like 3 times. And if you have a salad spinner, that's even better. So if you don't have a salad spinner, you may wanna get one. Okay, I think that's all of the onions that I wanted to talk about. Oh, I want to give you one more little tip I almost missed. The green onions, if you buy these in the grocery store, I have a tendency to buy these and not use them all. So what I'll do with them is, you see how there's a little bit of root on the bottom? As long as they have those, you can drop them in a cup of water, like just like a glass, get a little glass of water, drop them in there, and they will live in your windowsill or whatever, in the glass of water, for a good while. If you wanted later to plant them, they'll grow full roots, and you can plant them in the ground if you have some, or in a pot outside if you have a place to grow them. But even if you don't, in the water, they'll last a long time. And what'll happen is, like you see already, one of these little stalks is sad. So they'll do that, and then they'll turn brown and they'll fall off, but they'll grow new ones in the process. So you can save these for, I don't know, probably a month or so in a glass of water, and they'll just grow new stalks. I'll just take them and cut the stalks off, use them, and just go back to them and just leave the roots behind. So they're really great. You can do that too. Okay, so I think that we've covered pretty much all the different types of onions. I'm sure there's something I'm missing here apart from my cipollinis. I'm sure there's something I wasn't thinking about talking about. So if anybody has more information about onions that you want to share, you think I missed something, you have anything you want me to cover later, please put it in the comments below. And going away from this, the one thing I want you to remember as we talk about how you can use one onion in place of another onion, and which onion is best for what, and all of that stuff, the thing that's most important to remember is that the most important ingredient is love.